Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You, the show that makes Neighbours look like an Australian soap opera. On the news this week, in protest at the massive arms reduction announced by Mikhail Gorbachev, Soviet soldiers attempt to commit suicide with the only weapons still available. Sport, and after their defeat by Western Samoa in the Rugby World Cup, Wales take on an MFI soft furnishing display. And finally, the shamed Marquis of Blandford, on bail while he appeals against his jail sentence, announces he's found a steady job as a minicab driver. As usual, we have four wacky japesters ready at a moment's notice to roundly abuse a variety of much-loved public figures. Firstly, on Ian Hislop's team, someone who is about to embark on 7 weeks of S&M. I should explain that's the title of his new series, as well as his hobby, Tony Slattery. And to my left, on Paul Merton's team this week, television critic for the Mail on Sunday, and therefore the most charming, intelligent and overall attractive man I've ever had the pleasure of introducing, Alan Coren. So let's sweep majestically into round one. 4 bits of news footage to identify. Ian and Tony, what's this quiet family affair?
Oh, this is that wedding, isn't it? Although, no, this was chiefly notable for a fleet of stretch limousines to carry Larry Fortensky's chins. Yes. And a bit of added information is that Larry's hairdresser is the same as that of DJ Pat Sharp. Is that true? Yes, they both go to a hairdresser's called Shay Crap.
You can't have any points for that, but you can have 2 points for getting the answer right, anyway. Yes, it's the barrage of reporters at Liz Taylor's wedding to Larry Fortensky, an alcoholic bulldozer driver. Not sure how many alcoholic bulldozers there are to drive, but he drives one. Liz Taylor was brought to the altar by Michael Jackson, although he was a touch miffed that his chimpanzee Bubbles wasn't allowed to give her away. Who giveth this woman to be married to this man? So it would have gone. Larry himself described Liz as evergreen, presumably because you can tell her age by counting the rings. Paul and Alan, where's this heading for?
King's Cross.
It's actually heading for disaster. What it is, it's a Hornby Doublo outfit. It's all that's left after Malcolm Rifkin to spend all his money on deciding where the railway should go and then changing it again. And the rest of it's gone on the tunnel, and all they have is this very, very small rolling stock to go from London to Calais.
Which is coming out near King's Cross, is it not?
I think it's going through a Labour constituency now, as opposed to a Tory one in Kent.
So, well, if it goes to King's Cross, it'll cut down on curb calling because you get the train home, couldn't you?
British Rail has already bought £100 million worth of suburban property covering the length of the original route. As a result, a spokesman for British Rail said they would now be opening an extremely long, thin golf course. Ian and Tony, what's this uncivil row about?
Oh, well, that's clearly some old git.
Patients waiting over. That's an incredibly long queue.
There's William Waldegrave, who's clearly a toff and he's never been in a casualty department as well. He's just frightening 2 patients. Well, he probably thought they were consultants. He's never been in it.
Saying, what are you doing here? Why don't you try Bupa? It's much quicker. Now, there was an awful row this week because there was a suggestion that John Major was trying to privatise the health service, which is Waldegrave's job. And so Tories very upset about that.
Fighting over
and it's not pronounced Waldegrave.
Isn't it?
No, it's pronounced...
Pratt.
That's the one.
Yes, it's true. He has actually changed the pronunciation of his name 3 times, from Waldegrave to Waldegrave, and now it's apparently he likes to be called Waldegrave, which is sort of halfway between the two. This is what the BBC pronunciation unit told us. The man at the start of the film was Duncan Nicol, the NHS chief executive, who publicly stated that Labour claims of backdoor privatisation were not true, and Labour in turn have claimed that he's politically biased. Not that it's for this programme to take sides. Conservative MPs have every right, as human beings, to cover up the cynical erosion of the NHS by harping on And Labour MPs have every right to tell whoppers about it. And finally in this round, Paul and Alan, what are these elaborate preparations for?
Oh, yes, that's another national health operation, I think. You can have it done in Dewhurst Window.
Oh, yes, this is the Royal Albert Hall for the first Basho, I think it's called, to be held outside of Japan in 1,500 years or something.
And Basho is the Japanese for Robert Maxwell lookalike competition.
I thought it was your favourite subject again.
I thought it was one of the Marx Brothers, Basho, wasn't it? I'm mixing it up with sumo. He was sumo with one of them.
Apparently the Japanese are offended that we don't appreciate the spirituality of the sport. Quite how spiritual it is for a 17-stone fat man to lurch about trying to knock around other people in a confined space, I don't know. It certainly wasn't very spiritual when Oliver Reed did it on After Dark. Which stoutest remark brings us to the end of round one, at which point, as you can now see, with the aid of our gleaming new scoreboard, good old BBC, no expense spent, both teams, in fact, have equal points. Paul and Alan have 4, and Ian and Tony have a sumptuous 4 also. Well, before we glide gracefully into the second round, it's time to pause briefly as we throw up 2 intriguing images recently appearing in the news. Paul and Alan, here's yours. Ian and Tony, will you look at this? And between now and the end of the programme, you're contractually obliged to come up with a scathingly amusing caption, or your residuals will be axed. So let's immerse ourselves in the grisly world of tabloid headlines. 1 grim tale each to identify. Paul, here's yours. Don't put this in the shredder.
I think it's Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, isn't it? She gets love letters from Princess Andrew, I nearly said. That'd be a royal scoop, wouldn't it? She gets love letters from Prince Andrew, which he reads and immediately puts in the shredder.
Yes, that's
Very romantic, isn't it?
Well, she's all heart, that woman.
Yeah.
Apparently, Fergie finds his letters rather embarrassing. I can't believe the spelling's that bad, but there's also been disagreement between them this week over the interior decor of their £5 million home. Fergie's design included a bright pink drawing room, bright pink canopied bed, wall-to-wall tartan carpet throughout, and a toilet seat that plays the national anthem. Just as well for the royal family, they don't have to stand to attention when it plays. Alan, here's a curious scenario for you. Holler in the Wall saves 2 bank girls.
It's one of those for people who are confounded by technology. You believe you press those buttons and money comes out automatically. In fact, 2 girls stand behind it and shove it through. What happened in this story is that 2 girls were locked in a bank vault and were saved by shouting through the slot. In fact, they pulled 3 directors of public prosecutions before someone came up to get them. But that was
Yes, it's the remarkable story of an unnamed customer who tried to use a Barclays cash machine in central London. When he punched in his personal number, a piece of paper slid out bearing the message, "Help, we're trapped inside the machine." Apparently, 2 bank tellers had been filling the machine with cash when the doors were accidentally shut on them. It's not clear at what point in the weekend all this occurred, but judging from the fact there was still money in the machine, it must have been about 7:30 on Friday evening. Barclays, the bank that likes to say, "Help, we're trapped inside the cash machine." Tony, what's this story behind the headline, strangely reminiscent of the Kate Bush song? Man with an ear in his leg.
No, I know this one. I remember reading about this. This was a chap who lost his ear in a fight, and the doctors sewed the ear back onto his leg so that the blood supply would keep the...
This Paul Gascoigne again.
No, he didn't. Although I remember, I think at the time that he should have had the...
Oh, yes, here we go.
Where
should he have had the ear, Tony? As if we couldn't guess.
That's all I've got to say, thank you very much.
It's Channel Tunnel worker Mr. Pat Neary, who lost his left ear in a disco fight, and in an effort to save it, doctors have grafted it onto the upper part of his leg, where it will stay for 5 months. Surgeons at East Grinstead Hospital supposedly broke the news to him by saying, "A word in your sign." Apparently, his sex life will be restricted over the next 5 months, but what there is of it will sound great. Ian, what's BT up to now? 999 call scandal.
Apparently, British Telecom has been losing calls, and a lot of 999 calls have been diverted to Chinese restaurants and the like.
Yes.
So you ring up and say, can I have an ambulance? And they say, what number's that?
Yes, absolutely right. It's the news that British Telecom are passing 999 calls to police, fire and ambulance services in the wrong areas. 2 blazes in Ulster were referred to firemen in North Wales. A fire in Huddersfield was passed to Humberside, a Leicester fire to Derby and a Worksop fire to Nottingham. I think by the time they arrived, the fire would have spread that far anyway. We phoned a British Telecom spokesman for his reaction, and he asked us what topping we wanted on our pizza. Which brings us mercifully to the end of round 2, and we see plainly that, well, they're still level, 8 points each, both teams. Well, it's time now to get down and get cryptic as we show each team a set of seemingly and indeed genuinely unconnected images, but which taken together encapsulate a major news story of the week. Ian and Tony, the clues in the music for you.
Who's that girl?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I think this is...
That's,
oh, hello.
Taking photos of...
Someone unwrapping a condom. That's very odd. Where are they taking photos of? Yes.
Oh, dear. Someone's selling sausages.
Soap powder. Ooh,
Oh, I recognise them.
A lot of transvestites. isn't it? No, that's clearly the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, which now stands for Drop Panties, Please.
No, it doesn't. Yes, good.
Presumably the clue in the music is who's that girl? Because the Sun newspaper splashed on Monday that it had found the girl. And it wasn't her at all. It was someone else. It was a completely different girl. Quite what the sausages have got to do with, I have no idea.
Did Sir Alan use a veiny bratwurst?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it was more a reference to Spanish supermarkets, which is, of course, where they now are,
that's
in
right.
Menorca.
How can you tell it's Menorca just by showing a sausage?
Well, you
without
weren't
any
supposed to
clothes
tell it
on.
was Menorca. You were supposed to have read that in the paper and tell us that it was Menorca. You'll get the hang of the idea by the end of the series, Tony. Yes, it's Sir Alan Green, one of the most generous, honourable and decent men you could hope to find hanging around King's Cross Station. He's currently in Menorca, being pursued around his local supermarket, hence the sausages, by packs of reporters, hence the film, while the tabloids back home scrambled to identify the prostitute who spoke to him. The Sun got it completely wrong when they implicated a prostitute called Samantha. The Star was quick to mock. Your Daily Star tracked down the real girl, they said, Nicola Evans, only for the Sunday Mirror to announce the Star had got the wrong Nicola. The girl was really Nicola Hall, or as they revealed on Monday, Kathleen Beach. Prostitutes' prices in King's Cross area have now shot up, £25 for a quickie or £50 for the full interview. Paul and Alan, a pretty tall story for you.
We know this.
I think so.
We know the music. The music is by Sir Ranulph and the Feathermen.
Yes, absolutely right.
It's a group.
And the first you're on the right trail.
Yes.
So the Arctic Explorer.
It's not in the Arctic.
No, the bloke towing his lunch across Hampstead Heath at the beginning of that, behind a firkin of something behind his tractor. There is the chicken actually being, as it were, plucked.
Well, I think that answered that one.
Well, there's a lot in the middle of there.
Yeah.
I suppose the pluck will
Would
be
you
out
like
of
to
the question.
elaborate at all?
Not enormously. It's the sort of question where you elaborate on a subject like this and someone's waiting for you outside the studio with a sock full of sand. It's all about international murder.
It is. It's a rather mind-boggling claim by polar explorer Sir Ranulph Twistleton Wickham Fiennes.
Pronounced Waldegrave.
That he's the sole survivor of a group of SAS men, hence the film, who killed 4 Arab brothers in the 60s and who consequently have been hunted down and killed one by one. This was on the orders of the victim's father, who hired an organisation called The Clinic. It's taken 17 years, but that's the NHS for you. So let's plunge legs akimbo into our now virtually entertaining archive round. As usual, one piece of film per team. This week, both taken from the world of popular beat music. Ian and Tony, just a second or two to decide who this is and what musical instrument he's playing.
That's Ron Brown.
And
It is
he's
Ron Brown.
playing the mace. Very badly.
Yes.
And the music is Guilty. I think a reference to a court case of his involving some knickers and someone else's wife.
I think you've got 2 marks for that. Very good. The popular beat combo in question was, of course, Bananarama. Massively successful insofar as they've had 23 chart hits, and massively economical insofar as they managed to do it without using any more than one tune. This is, in fact, taken from a commercial for the album of Bananarama's greatest hit.
That's not a mace, I'm sorry, it's a giant pepper pot.
Paul and Alan, more funky vibes for you. Who's the unexpected caller here?
We argued just the other night. I thought we got it straight.
It's Mick Hucknall from Simply Red. Who else could it be?
Pop connoisseur.
Or Neil Kinnock, of course.
Or Neil Kinnock, yes. Yes, it's slightly younger Neil Kinnock, in fact, back in the days when he had hair.
It'd be difficult to be a slightly older Neil Kinnock. wouldn't it? Just a point to make there, Angus.
Yes, I think it was worth it. You're not getting any points for it, but well done anyway. Yes, he was appearing in a Tracy Ullman video back in the days when she used to be British.
We argued just the other night. I thought we got it straight. We talked until it was night. I thought we'd agree. I thought we talked it out.
So at the end of that discordant round, well, it's still neck and neck. There's nothing to choose between them. Paul and Alan have 12, Ian and Tony have 12. And so we forge lustily into our odd one out round. 4 grim visages for you to ponder. Only 3 have something in common. Paul, a cosy foursome for you. Storming Norman, Idi Amin, Rain Spencer, Princess Di's wicked stepmother, and the lovely Paddy Ashdown.
Well, 3 of them I know have been contestants on Blind Date.
2 of them now happily married.
So it worked.
I think the only thing I can think of is that Paddy Ashdown's the odd one out because the other 3 have either been portrayed in films by actors or are about to be portrayed. And the Americans have done a soap opera of the royal family where, what's her name appeared?
101 Dalmatians, she was in it.
Well, it's an extremely good answer, for which I'll give you 1 point, but it's not actually the right one.
Idi Amin is the only one to have bits of the other 3 in his freezer.
Well, you obviously know something we don't, but it's not
Is it
the
an
answer,
army
I'm afraid.
question?
It is an army question.
Is it medals then, if it's army?
Yes. It's Rain Spencer, unsurprisingly, as all the others have been decorated, whereas she's simply done a lot of decorating.
Oh.
She's, of course, very nearly a joke. As for the others, Paddy Ashdown was decorated in Borneo, Norman Schwarzkopf was decorated and given an honorary knighthood by the Queen for his contribution to global warming, and Idi Amin was awarded the highest accolade the British Empire can bestow, the VC. Unfortunately, however, he awarded it to himself. I'm sure he would have given himself a knighthood if he could have trusted anyone to hold the sword. Alan, a handsome quartet for you. Frank Boff, Thora Hurd, Maradona, and Alicia, the Aga Khan's horse.
I think the clue is in the nostrils. Is it? Three
Not a million miles away.
3 of them are users, and Thora Hurd's the supplier. devotes her business into other people's noses.
Yes, all of that is very good.
Well, Paul Hurd did come second in the Grand National.
Before you go any further, no, that's not...
They've all been
not the right
decorated.
track.
What rubbish.
It's Thora Hurd. All the others have been caught red-handed, or in the case of Alicia, red-hooved, having consumed illegal narcotics, although Thora Hurd was once positively tested for Horlicks before Songs of Praise. Maradona was found in possession of cocaine, which he swore he never took. I'm sure it was just the nose of God. And Uncle Frank Boff used to like snorting cocaine through a £10 note while dressed in red camisole, stockings and suspenders. Something which is worth bearing in mind, I think, when you watch him presenting the Rugby World Cup.
Excellent. Very good.
Tony, an absurd collection of misfits for you. Terry Wogan, Colonel Gaddafi, Princess Margaret, and Eddie Grundy.
Eddie Grundy has something to do with sheep. Terry Wogan is wearing a sheep on his head.
Gaddafi's cabinet are entirely made up of sheep.
Or he thinks he is a sheep because he's mad. And Princess Margaret
Isn't.
No, I do know this because it's. No, I don't. No, hang on.
They've all been on the
They've
Archers.
all been on the Archers, that's right.
Except Eddie Grundy.
No, except Gaddafi. They've all been on the Archers except Gaddafi.
Absolutely right, yes, at long last.
Sorry.
2 points, very good. It's Colonel Gaddafi.
Gaddafi's in the next series, opening a wine bar.
He probably will be, yes. Terry Wogan played himself. Eddie Grundy is the name of a character played by Trevor Harrison. And Princess Margaret played a slightly bloated sherry addict who's rather keen on men. No, I'm sorry. She actually played herself, not that other character at all. Ian, 4 more pillars of the establishment for you. Michael Foote, Sir Alistair.
Ah, yes. They
Pamela
both modelled
Bordez.
donkey jackets.
Pamela Bordez and...
And that's Derek Jameson, pronounced Sid Yobbo. Michael Foote edited The Express a long time ago, before he was anything to do with the Labour Party. Sir Alistair Burnett edited The Express, I believe, before he went to ITN.
Yes, well, you're right. The first one, Michael Foote actually edited the
Evening Standard.
Evening Standard, right, good, I've got it wrong, that's in keeping.
No, you're not. They're
we
all
get points
editors.
together?
They're all editors.
Yeah, very good.
Yes.
You're not getting any more points, I'm afraid. You got it right. 2 points. Michael Foote, Sir Alistair Burnett, and Derek Jameson have all been editors of various newspapers, whereas, of course, Pamela Bordez has only had editors of various newspapers, which brings us scurrying to the end
I
of the
think I'd better use the word allegedly very loudly before Angus goes personally bankrupt.
or the BBC. Anyway, yes, which brings us scurrying to the end of this round, at which point, there's some difference at long last. Yes, Paul and Alan are desperately trying to keep their heads above water with 15, and Ian and Tony are sailing off into the sunset with 18. And so we mince shamelessly into the final round, in which we show each team a set of headlines with 1 or 2 words missing. They must identify the words or provide a better alternative. As usual, we force the team in second place to go first, in a vain attempt to give the game some competitive edge. So it's down to Paul and Alan. Off you go. Nimmo is what in his limo?
Blotto? This is another 3 Marx Brothers there. Nimmo, Blotto and Limo. Nick.
During the week, wasn't it?
Nick is the right
Yes.
answer. Very good. Next, police hero strangled crazed.
Nimmo. Dog.
I think it's dog.
Dog is dog.
I'll give you 1
A
point for
dog.
dog. It's pitbull is the answer.
That's not
Next,
1 word.
That's 2 words. Pitbull is 2 words.
Not on my script, it isn't.
Well, it's 2 words there. Look.
Yes,
In the actual newspaper headline.
And another 2 words are sour grapes, Paul.
Sour grapes, that's 1 word, is it?
it is. Next, the French face fines if they what?
The French face fines if they smoke in public.
Oh, but you see it's 1 word, so it could have been if
One
they
word, could have
go
been
round a one-way roundabout.
Next, the man who really has Kinnock's what?
Ear.
Ear.
Leg. Leg on.
Ear is correct. And finally, beat riots by what, schools told?
Closing, I should think.
Decimalisation.
Flying flags, I'm afraid, yes. So here we go, Ian and Tony, here are yours. Gaddafi's what droops after his split with Scargill?
Sheep, I think.
Can we answer that one?
You can leap in if you want to.
I don't know that.
Left wing.
Left wing is absolutely
Well
right.
done.
Next,
I didn't know
Labour
he
vote.
had 2 wings.
Well, you do now. Next, Labour votes to change what?
Name to Conservative Party.
You can have a point for satire, very good, but not actually right. Britain is the answer.
Oh.
Cock-a-hoop Tories are up what?
Oh, I know. Is it?
Shit Creek.
No, I know that this is down south.
It is down south, very good. Next, herd tiptoes across what?
Tulips.
2 words here, Paul.
Federalism.
Channel negotiation or something like
I'll
that.
give you 1 point. EC tightrope is the answer. And lastly, Thatcher gives them what?
Oh, a good
2 words.
seeing to. A good seeing to with a set of Queen Anne chair legs.
Is it mad cow disease?
No, the jitters is the answer, which means at the end of that frantic bout of verbal jousting, this week's dismal failures are Ian and Tony with 21, and this week's overnight stars are Paul and Alan with 25. So congratulations to our winners and derision and public scorn to our losers, unless of course they can redeem themselves in this our final round, the dreaded caption competition. Paul and Alan, what did you think of? What did you say?
We thought it might be property on the move at last claims Halifax. But he's got a better
Or
one.
possibly National Health Service unveil new plastic hip.
Ian and Tony, what about yours?
Prince Andrew shocked by new look Fergie.
It's not Fergie, it's the Queen Mother.
Oh yes.
On which ribald note, we say thank you to our guests, Ian Hislop and Tony Slattery, Paul Merton and Alan Coren, and I leave you with some late news. The people of Blackpool reacted this evening to reports that Mrs Thatcher has finally agreed to speak at the Tory conference. Meanwhile, David Owen gets a rapturous reception at the first conference of the new scaled-down SDP. Salman Rushdie at last finds somewhere where no one can reach him. He gets a job in the after-sales service department at Dixon's. And finally, George Best has resolved to give up alcohol and start drinking milk instead. Good night.